you've ever attempted to make a pumpkin roll before, you know that they can be a bit tricky and time consuming. After you bake it, you have to somehow get it out of the pan, and then you have to roll it up in a towel or parchment paper and then let it cool. And then you have to unroll it and then add the frosting, all the while making sure that you don't mess up or the cake doesn't crack. It's no wonder photos like these are scattered all around the internet. But by accident, I developed a recipe for keto pumpkin roll that doesn't involve any of that. It's easy, crack-proof, and tastes absolutely incredible. Let's start with the pumpkin cake. Add 1.5 cups of almond flour to a medium bowl, along with 1/3 cup of oat fiber, 1 teaspoon of baking soda and pumpkin pie spice, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I've been adding oat fiber to a lot of my keto bakes recently because it gives a crumb texture that's similar to cake without adding any extra net carbs because it's an insoluble fiber. In a large bowl, cream 1 cup of softened unsalted butter until it's light in color and fluffy. This should take around 3 to 5 minutes if you're using a handheld mixer. For the sweeteners, use 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar substitute. I use the Wholesome Yum brand for this recipe. And then 1/3 cup of granulated sugar-free sweetener. Cream that until fluffy, and then add 2 eggs and 1/3 cup of pumpkin puree. A keto Karen tried to tell me that pumpkin wasn't keto because it had sugar in it. I told her, first make sure you're using 100% pumpkin puree and not the pumpkin pie filling, because that actually does contain sugars, since it's a pre-mixed version that you would add to your pan if you're just making pumpkin pie. The pumpkin puree does not contain any added sugars. It does contain sugar, but that's the natural fruit sugar that's found in really any fruit. All fruit has sugar, even fruits that we would consider keto approved, like berries, zucchini, even avocado has sugar in it. 1 avocado has 0.6 grams of sugar in it. Now that our dry ingredients are mixed into the wet ingredients, it's time to spread our cake mixture into the pan. I'm using a normal size baking sheet. I think this is considered a half sheet. It needs to be rimmed, and you want to spray cooking spray down first, then place a layer of parchment paper. This will make it easier to spread the cake to fill the pan without the parchment paper sliding all over the place. Then we're gonna bake this at 350 degrees for 14 to 15 minutes, or until the cake is golden and set on top, meaning that there's no liquidy cake on top of it. And your house is gonna start to smell incredible. While that bakes, let's make the perfect fall beverage to go with our pumpkin roll. A pumpkin spice mocktail using a raw cacao powder blend of superfoods called Cacao Bliss from today's partner, Earth Echo. To a blender, add 1/2 cup of unsweetened nut milk. I'm using macadamia nut milk. 1 tablespoon of pumpkin puree. 1 tablespoon of sugar-free maple syrup. 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla and pumpkin pie spice. 1/2 cup of ice, and 1/2 scoop of Cacao Bliss. This is a raw cacao powder blend that is lightly sweetened, and it contains superfoods like cinnamon, turmeric, lucuma, MCT, and Himalayan salt. Not only am I getting delicious chocolate flavor from the Cacao Bliss, but those superfoods help with inflammation, they help boost the immune system, help with brain focus, and helps with energy. Decorate the rim of the glass with this mixture of Cacao Bliss and pumpkin pie spice. If you want to try Cacao Bliss, go to earthechofoods.com/KetoFocus. Then use my code KetoFocus to get 15% off your order. I'll have it linked down below for you as well, but this makes an incredible fall-inspired mocktail. Now that our cake is done cooking, let it sit on the tray for a few minutes before running a knife along the edges to keep it from sticking to the pan. And instead of rolling this cake up immediately like other Swiss cake recipes have you do, we're actually gonna let it cool completely in the pan while we make our frosting. For that, you need 1 cup of unsalted, softened butter, and cream that until it's light in color and fluffy. Then mix in 8 ounces of softened cream cheese. I forgot to film this part, but know that it's in there. Add 1 cup of powdered sugar-free sweetener and 1 tablespoon of oat fiber. The oat fiber helps with the texture of the frosting, plus it helps kind of diminish that stickingly sweet flavor that comes with some powdered sugar-free sweeteners. Finish with a tablespoon of nut milk or heavy cream and a teaspoon of vanilla. Then spread this filling on top of the cake. When I say that I accidentally developed this recipe, that's because it came from a failed attempt when I first tried to make my keto oatmeal cream pies that I showed you how to make a month ago. I didn't add enough flour, and the cookies spread out into a thin cake along the baking tray after they baked. I noticed I was able to roll the cake without it cracking, thus the keto pumpkin roll was born. To roll, start from the short edge, grab hold of the parchment paper underneath the cake, and pull. Use it as your guide to roll the cake tightly. We have one more important step before slicing into this marvel. You want to place your cake into the freezer for about 30 minutes, just so that it can stiffen up enough to get a clean cut when you cut off the edges of the cake. With this method, you can get a beautifully rolled, crack-free, hassle-free pumpkin roll that tastes absolutely phenomenal. And if you want to see how I made those keto Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies, then click right here because I show you how.